and welcome to another episode of The Influential Nonprofit. I am your host. My name is Maryanne, as you know, and today we're going to talk about the lies that I've told you. Yes, my friends, I have been lying to you. I have been lying to you, and I didn't mean to lie to you. I didn't know I was lying to you when I was lying to you. And I'm not the only one who's lying. We are often lying to each other around some of the myths of nonprofit life, especially around fundraising. And, you know, I've been working in this industry for a very long time. I started my first job in nonprofit in 1992. So I've seen a lot of things come and go. And with that length comes wisdom and comes new revelations. So if you find yourself telling yourself these myths or these stories, or if you find yourself believing them, that's okay because a lot of us have. And as our industry grows, as we learn new things, as we grow in our ability to build relationships, find donors to invest in our work, to change the world, to make our communities, our country, our world better places, we learn. And when we learn, we reframe. And so this episode is dedicated to the stories that I have told and maybe the stories that you're telling and how to reframe that and how to stop sharing these myths and really the heart of what these where these myths are coming from. Okay, so the first myth that I'm going to talk about is more follow-ups equal more yeses. Um, this is something that we learned as fundraisers, or maybe you didn't learn this. A lot of the techniques of fundraising came from capitalistic for-profit companies who had the always be closing mentality. Get out there, sell, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. And it was I am going to follow up with you until I can't do it anymore. That is a certain, and I'm not saying that's good or bad, it is a certain strategy that is used to sell. And also, we brought those strategies into fundraising. We used them because we saw businesses use them, right? The hustle, the grind, just get something out of them. Keep following up, keep following up. But really, fundraising is a different kind of product with a different market orientation. I'm not going to go too much into this, but I want to make it really clear. There's a difference between, a market product and a social product, right? A market product is when, I'm going to buy something, I'm going to give you money and get a product in return, right? A social product or a social benefit means it's a longer term game. I'm going to donate money. I don't really expect very much in return. I want to feel good about it. And I understand that there's a long term gain to this. And we were using market value or market product strategies to push a social product, a social value. And those things become incongruent, right? So following up doesn't mean more yeses. We also have this idea that if I follow up so many times, then somebody's going to acquiesce to my needs, right? Oh, if I send them 7 times, then they'll do what I want. People aren't computers and they aren't ATMs. We are relationship and community builders. And that is not how we build community. Again, it's not a bad thing. These are well used tactics. It's just may not apply in a fundraising setting. So we used to teach, consistency, staying top of mind, persistence. And what we were doing was creating follow-up that was driven by anxiety and felt like pressure. And that all that chasing would erode trust, or we would completely blank or ghost people, and they would feel like there was no interest in them. So the more you follow up doesn't mean the more yeses you're going to get. What gives you yeses is your ability to remember to be of value to others. And the more people feel seen and heard, the more they are likely to buy. The more you push, the more they're going to shut down. Because as soon as we feel pressure, we feel defensive. And when we feel defensive, we go into fight or flight. So bringing people into community and authentic, aligned relationship is ultimately why people will say yes, because they see their values reflected in your work and want to invest in it. That is it. That is the bottom line. There's no magic follow-up quota. Yeah, okay, yeah, there is documentation that no, and you know from working with me, there's a process that we enroll people, right? Awareness, interest, connection, action. Those things are valid. Yet some people may move through that very quickly. Some people may take time, but it's about being of value to others and bringing people into community. It's not about a certain amount of follow-ups. And I did a podcast a couple weeks ago that you can check out around why follow-ups don't work if you want to dive more deeply into that. I go into detail about why follow-ups don't work and how to create ones that actually do. Um, and that is you can explore that if you want. But the myth that we're going to get out of our lexicon is that the more you follow up, the more yeses you're going to get. Okay, myth number two, urgency is the best motivator. This sometimes we use pressure to try to move people to action. And we want to create a sense of urgency to get people to do something at the time that we want them to do it. Urgency can make deadlines, right? Like feel very concrete, like we need this by this time. It can, it can look like leadership, right? So that's why it's this myth is sticking around because it can look like leadership, like we have this urgent need. And the fear can produce short-term results. So when we say urgency is the best motivator, that myth is like, can we make it urgent? There is a reason why this myth hangs around. And also, what I see and in my experience is that manufactured emergency undermines your credibility. If our relationships are rooted in trust, right? If the basis of relationships, and we are professional relationship builders, is rooted in trust, manufactured urgency breaks that trust, and it is a tool of manipulation. Constant urgency also creates donor fatigue. If you always look like your house is on fire, that will also erode trust, and people will get tired of bailing you out of situation. Um, and also that constant panic can drain donors and drain you, right? Meaning motivates more sustainably than panic, right? So real urgency, it's okay to have an urgent need. There's a lot happening in our world. Like, when the WIC benefits and the SNAP benefits were halted, a lot of organizations felt the effects of that. And there was an urgent need, and that was a true urgent need. And you can say, we are in a bind. This is really difficult. Medicaid cuts, things like that, that really cause the people that you serve pain. That is a true urgent. That's true urgency. The urgency is like, oh, I need to raise this money by this date or by this time. That, um, that is your problem. That's not their problem, right? Your problem, your deadline is not anyone else's problem. So their money will be good December 31st or January 1st. They still get to choose. Yes, you can create incentives, you can create things for them, but also we just want to be careful not to manufacture crisis or emergency or to have sustaining crisis because we think it's the best motivator. You, the truth is, you don't get to dictate who or when. That's the universe's job. The universe gets to dictate who and when. Your job is to be present, keep giving value and keep building relationships and keep creating that sense of community, not the sense of community, the actual community, because we are at our heart relationship and community builders. You do that, you don't need urgency. When you are an influential leader that natural and easily builds a communities of support, you won't need urgency because you will have what you need when you need it. People will be ready for you when you need it. And that is the true gift of influence. That's why I coach and train people the way I do, because there's just way less that's urgent because you have the community of support you need and the resources you need. Okay, myth number three. Ooh, that was hard to get out. If they believe in the mission, they'll give. This can be a bit of an oversimplification. It's appealing because it feels logical. It reduces the need for relationship because if they believe in the mission, they'll just do it, right? And it shifts responsibility from you, building relationships and giving value to the donor. Now, this is a little bit nuanced, so I want you to walk with me here as I share this with you. Because belief without connection often leads to guilt and not generosity. So when you have a belief but no connection to being able to do something about that belief, it often leads to guilt, not generosity. There's a lot of things I see in the world right now, and I believe that these things should change. And I also don't know what to do about it. And that makes me feel guilty because I feel stuck. And so belief without connection can lead to those feelings. And often potential donors or your donors feel that way. Donors give when they feel seen and not sold. If there's one quote that you could cross stitch and hang over your office, it's donors give when they feel seen, not sold. I'm not selling anything to anyone. Um, and also, if you know anything about my work, you know that why people give is from their own lived experience, right? So it's a combination. Why people give is because, yes, sorry. Why people give is because they do believe in the mission. They do believe in the mission. It's called the philanthropic heart, right? My concept of philanthropic heart. What's in your heart and what's in my heart. If those things align, we create a relationship. What's in my heart as a donor and what your organization's mission is, if those things align, we create a relationship. Where this myth blows up is the assumption that just because I believe in a cause, I will act. I want to feel seen, heard, understood, and feel a part of something greater than myself. If not, then if I can't find an outlet for that, right, I will just feel guilty. I often don't know how to help. And so this is the beautiful opportunity and a way to bust out of this myth because when somebody believes and wants to make a change, you can be the answer to that. But it takes both of you. It's not just you sitting back and saying, well, they believe it, they'll give. We want to have them feel seen, heard, and understood. And when they do that, they will give. When they feel a part of something greater than themselves, they will give. So that's a little bit nuanced because I want to say that yes, if they believe in the mission, they'll give is the myth. But if they believe in the mission and you connect them to a community of support where they feel seen and heard, then they will give. All right, little bit nuanced. It's just not enough to believe. If it was, you wouldn't have to do any marketing. If it was, you wouldn't have a donor list. People would just give. All right, let's go to myth number four. Before that, I want to say one more thing. Belief opens the door, relationship invites someone in. When they believe that they open the door, but a relationship says, hey, come in here. If that's close to your heart, I've got this for you. I am here for you. Let me show you what we're doing that the belief that you care so much about. Okay, now we're going to number four. Rejection means disinterest. This is a very emotional myth, and I understand because rejection hurts, you know. Well, why we believe that rejection means disinterest, which is it protects our ego, of course, right? It gives us closure, and it can simplify a very complex or nuanced relationship. Um, no, no, rejection means disinterest. That can be true, but it cannot be true. So we want to make sure that that's not the story we're consistently telling ourselves. No often means not now, not yet, or not like this. Interpreting no as rejection shuts down trust and it shuts down the relationship. We're putting too much personal on the rejection. It's not a rejection of us or our cause or anything. Most times people say no, it's because it's not now. It's either timing or funds, right? Those are the two big things. So it's not now, not yet, or not like this. I also want to say that we honor a no, okay? Like if a no is okay. If it's not now, or not yet, or not like this, that's okay, right? We're going to honor that no, but it doesn't mean they're not interested and it doesn't mean they don't care. I'm going to give you a great example of this. I was giving a workshop, and you may have heard this story. I was giving a workshop, and this woman said, Maryanne, I get it. I get you honor the no. I get that you don't sell people. They need to feel seen. And I want to tell you the story. And she tells me the story of they have regular donors, and it was appeal time. And she went and saw a guy, a business owner, and he said, "Man, it's been a really rough year. I can't do it this year." And she said, "No problem. How can I support you? Is there anything we can do to help you?" You know, of course it's not, our relationship is bigger than money. And it's, we of course would love a gift and also know that you need to make the choice that you need and respect that choice. All the good things. Relieving the guilt and shame, reestablishing the relationship, rebuilding trust. Because I bet it was really hard for that man to tell her that they couldn't do it. You don't, there was guilt and shame on his part, guilt and shame on her part, all of that. They mended it. It was all good. She goes back and says, "Hey, boss, this guy's not going to be able to do it this year." And he said, "Well, you couldn't get something from him?" And she said, now if she would have gone back and said, "Well, I know you can't do 5,000, but could you do 500?" Do you feel like he would feel seen and heard or sold? Right, sold. Because the boss was perceiving rejection as disinterest and also bringing that relationship just down to money. Because by being gracious and supportive to this person and to the donor relationship during a difficult time, don't you believe when things turn around for him, he's going to be right back because he feels valued way more than just the amount of money that he can give every year. She might say, "Hey, I know you can't give. Would you like to contribute another way? Maybe join a community, maybe join a board. Would you like to volunteer?" There's so many ways that you can be supportive, right? So a rejection does not mean disinterest. It means not now, not yet, or not like this. Just being curious what's going on with him. If is there any other way he'd like to participate? Curiosity keeps relationships alive, assumptions shut them down, and often our ego will create the stories and create the assumptions to protect ourselves from what we perceive as rejection or disinterest, and it's not either of those things. Okay, I want to share the root myth here, which I'm going to call number 5, which is, and this is what really started this and inspired this topic for today, which is there's only so much money in philanthropy. There's only so much money out there. And so we better get our slice of the pie, that there's some limited amount of philanthropy money, and we better get it. The belief under all of them, including this one, is limited donor money, fundraising is competition, and generosity is a finite resource. It is the scarcity myth. And I have said this before. And I said, these are myths that I've said, and I'm going to be really honest. I worked at 501 Creative for years, and we would say, "Hey, you want to put um, your best brand forward, your best website forward, because there's only so much for money for philanthropy, and you want to make sure that you're getting your slice." I didn't realize I was teaching scarcity, and I was because I really didn't understand the theory of abundance, and that's to be expected because scarcity and scarcity thinking is around us, and it it consumes us all the time. There's only so much money for philanthropy. There's only so many donors. And what oh, I'm gonna go. Okay. Whew, it causes us to be siloed in our thinking and in our work because we're so afraid and we hoard resources almost in a sense. We keep our donors, close, our money closer, and we wind up building tiny little silos, little kingdoms, little fiefdoms because we're so afraid. Um, nonprofits are conditioned to compete. Um, and again, this is a capitalistic way of looking at things. Um, there's only so many people who are going to buy a car this year, so you better get yours. Um, that we're moving that into the nonprofit space. And again, that's a market value, that's a market product. This is a social value, this is a social product. We're applying a different we're applying a different value, right? The values aren't aligning because we're using market values for social value. And we're conditioned to compete because we are embracing the ideals of capitalism. And our scarcity starts to masquerade as realism. Well, I have to be realistic because abundance isn't realistic. And our fear is often rewarded by our board. Many of our boards come from the for-profit world where, fear is rewarded, where risk-taking is discouraged. And they come from a place of fiscal scarcity mentality. And again, they bring that market value into the social value arena and then wonder why we don't understand each other. So our fear is often rewarded. But I want to go back to this. Scarcity masquerades as realism. If you can believe that there's not enough, you can believe that there's enough. It's a belief. And that how would you rather spend your day? Believing that scarcity is enough, that there's enough for everybody, or believing that there's not enough? I believe the universe is limitless and abundant and there's enough for everyone and that you will be protected. We see money as sometimes a stagnant pond. And what happens to a stagnant pond, right? It gets the mold and the growth and it gets stale and stagnant and eek. Money is a flow. There's always more money and there'll always be more money. And when we dive into this belief of scarcity, it fuels this over follow up, right? It fuels this idea of we have to follow up a certain number of times so they'll say yes because we're afraid of letting them go because we're afraid we won't know where the next one will come from, the next lead will come from. This justifies the urgency, right? Oh my God, we need it now because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And it turns donors into transactions, right? So where everything connects is this idea of abundance, that the universe is limitless, that there's enough for everyone, and it's just a matter of connecting to it. That's it. That's it. When we step into this idea of abundance, it allows us to let donors go that aren't a good fit. It allows us to, if it's not a good year for somebody and they can't donate, like absolutely no problem because we're protected. I know I'm okay. This isn't about rainbows and unicorns. This is about the truth, which is if you had to go in front of a judge and prove that there was abundance, you could do it. The money will shows up. You are taken care of. I had a call many years ago with this wonderful woman, and I explained to her she was starting a nonprofit, and she was really nervous, and she needed to raise like a small amount of money for many of us, $20,000 or so, but a large amount of money to her. And she felt like she needed to go find people or write grants. I said, "Hun, it's all around you. It's already all around you. Start with where you're at, start with who you know. It's all around you. You just need to connect to it." Sure enough, within months, she had everything she needed more and was off. But it never occurred to her that there was resources already around her. She just assumed she would have to go way outside herself. So this isn't magical thinking. This is if it's a story. Myths are stories that we tell ourselves, right? So if you can tell yourself one story, you can tell yourself another story. We are the product of the stories that we tell. If we tell ourselves It's okay. It's okay. If we tell ourselves, oh, we're always broke. I had to remind a client of mine the other day. She said, because we're always, 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 you know, um, uh, what did she say? We're always, always, she used the word always 3 times. We're always, 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 behind or financially behind or in a tight space. And I said, hey, be careful about the story that you're telling yourself because that's a myth because you are not that way. Like they moved to get a better deal on the building. They're doing a lot to increase their income. So just making sure we're not holding on to those outdated stories. If you say, oh, we're just a little nonprofit, we're a struggling nonprofit, then you will be a little struggling nonprofit because that's the myth of your creation. That's what you're telling yourself. When we attach ourselves to these myths, it it consumes our energy and it consumes our energy and it is not very productive. So we wound up these follow-ups and all these urgent appeals and they are draining. They are draining. Instead of that, think about how generosity grows with trust, that people give more when they're not pressured, when it's their own choice, and they'll give a lot more often and they'll stay around. And abundance comes from the relationship, not from extraction. Generosity isn't a scarce commodity. Uh, Trust is fragile, right? So when we have trust and we have a relationship rooted in trust, which means not making up our manufacturing crises, not following up with people, even when you don't get a response. It's all of that, okay? It's about abundance, it's about relationship building, it's about trust. Relationship first, money will follow. When we lead with the money, that's when it gets icky and that's when it gets weird. When we act in the spirit of abundance, right? Urgency becomes clarity, fundraising becomes stewardships, and follow-ups become an invitation. When we stop treating generosity like it's running out, fundraising gets quieter and more effective. It's the simple day-to-day work of relationship building. I would love for you to just think about which one of these myths do you speak? Which are you still carrying? What if you would shift and you trusted generosity more than urgency? What if you trusted abundance more than scarcity and worked on that and not just work on it, it's a practice. The scarcity myth is very prominent and it creeps up and it's around a lot. Abundance is something you can practice and you can work on. Um, no, change isn't failure, it's leadership. Adopting new ways of thinking is thought leadership, and sharing those with others is a thought leadership. So root yourself in abundance, question everything through that lens of abundance. Am I doing this because I am afraid there's not enough? And what would it look like to do this in the spirit of abundance, where there's plenty, where generosity is an infinite resource, just a matter of tapping into it? Go forth and be abundant. That's it for this episode. I would love to know some of the myths and stories that you've told yourself that I probably didn't even think of, and that you're not telling anymore. What you say in what you say now, what you've learned from this. As always, my email, and if you want to book a call with me and really learn how to be an influential, abundant, calm, confident leader that can lead, that can face rejection with ease, that builds communities of support with grace and ease, I would love to talk with you about it. Just hit me up in the notes. We'll see you next time on the Influential Nonprofit.